Hello and welcome to TidyX episode 153. TidyX is a screencast where we go through and explain how our code works. My name's Ellis Hughes.
And my name's Patrick Ward, back in action after missing a week because I was traveling, but here we are. Last week, Ellis did some web scraping of
Mm-hmm.
F1 data,
Yep.
and we are basically taking a viewer-supported question here, which was, how do you take data and then create your own package? So now that we have data, our next step is to let's get started on a package, and then over the series of several videos, we'll delve more into package creation and all of that kind of stuff, which then leads to pushing this out to GitHub and having it accessible to the world.
Exactly. And if you like what we're doing, please leave a comment down below letting us know that you like it. Please subscribe so we know that YouTube's about it. Like it so that it gets shared with more people. And we do have a Patreon page if you have enjoyed what we're doing and want to give back a little bit. I know that we really appreciate that as well. So yeah, as Patrick said, that we're gonna do some actual package creation in this episode. Last week we just scraped the data, so there is some great content online if you want to read more into data packaging or just packaging in general from Hadley Wickham. So there is a book, R Packages, and there is a website, r-pkgs.org, that you can go to, which is the online version of the book that goes into a lot of detail explaining how you actually build a package. But it is a great resource. That's what I read when I first started learning R and doing packaging, so I can vouch for the quality of the documentation in there. So then there's also two packages that I want to call out that we will be using throughout this series that are super helpful that were built by Posit. So there's the Dev Tools package, which is development tools, which we won't touch on this week. But then there's also the Use This package. And the Use This package has a lot of utilities that are super helpful for general package creation, um, building out the things that you're going to be doing basically every single time that you make a package. So I want to just call that out because we will be using that throughout the next several weeks. So in order to get started with first creating a package, Use This has a super helpful function called create underscore package. And yeah, it's like it's well named or something weird. You
Yeah.
don't have to try to figure out what archaic wording they've got. But the usual way that you'd be using this is you'd be in a fresh R session, kind of in your home directory. And in order to create the package, you write use this colon colon create underscore package and the name of the package you want to be using. We are because of the structure of our repository here for TidyX, we have to add a full path ahead of time, but the very last entry is the actual name of the new package. And so we will be creating this new project inside of our existing Tidy2C Explained 153 Data Packaging Part 2, and you'll find it inside of the new package called F1 Championships.
And
But
if someone's doing this at home, they most likely wouldn't need, just call it what you call it and let it ride.
yep, exactly. I just wanted to call that out because that looks like a lot of text there that you don't typically need unless you want to specify a different folder than your home directory.
And usually these types of functions, if you've ever like made a book down or something like that, the nice part about these functions is that the folks at Posit have done some of the heavy lifting for us. So you'll see once we run this, we're going to get a suite of objects returned within the folder that we're storing this new package in. And that those objects are basically going to help us make sure the package does what we want and run and make sure it's described properly and all of those types of things.
Exactly. And so this is now the result of that. You saw on the last page there it had some text. So this was just telling us, so let's quickly pull that out of the way. This was just telling us that it was creating the folder, that it was creating a description file, and it was creating a lot of these boilerplate files that you have to have in all of your R packages. So let me drag that back. And then it opens up the new project for you. So this is a blank package that we've called F1 championships, but there's nothing in it yet. There's no data in it. It doesn't know what you wanted. It's just populated with random stuff.
Yeah.
So let me bring up so the things that we want to touch on in this episode are the description file, the namespace file, and the fact that there's an R folder. And so those are like the three minimum things you need in order to create an R package. So the description file, as its name suggests, contains basic information about the package. So we can open that up. And so we will be filling this out in a second here, but it has like, what is the name of the package? What's the title? Blah, blah, blah. We'll go through that in a second. The next thing is namespace. That is less important to us because this gets generated and populated by Roxygen code that we'll be covering in future episodes. But this is where the information about what functions and what information from within your package will be shared externally. So it's the namespace of the R package. And then finally, the R folder. And so the R folder in this package is blank because we don't have any R functions or scripts that we're planning on sharing out. But if you were to be writing a package that would perform some sort of task, or you have a function that you're wanting to share out and export from your function, you write it and store it in an R script that's within the R folder. And so that's where everything gets sourced from and pulled from. And so those are kind of the high level contents there. Of course, there's additional boilerplate information here, like they've got a .rproj file, which is telling RStudio that this is an R project. The rproj.user folder, which again is used by RStudio. And then we'll cover later the rbuildignore and the gitignore files once we get to that. So let's fill out the description file. And so this is important for basically it's meta information about the package. So Patrick, what would be a good title for this package? Remember, it has to be one line and title case.
Yeah. So probably something like F1 data, what is it? Races, I guess we call them F1 races, data outcomes, or F1 race outcomes, and then the years that we've scraped. And the data that you scraped last week was static. So we basically pulled everything from 1950 to 2020. And maybe in future episodes, we can kind of delve into versioning. So for example, let's say that we want to set this up to pull new data when the next year happens. And so that would be a version change. So version, 0.0.0.9,000 might be data from 1950 to 2020. 0.0.1 might then be, up to 2021, and, 0.0.2 up to 2022, something like that. So, so F1 race outcomes from 1950. And then the authors part here is we need to fill out who the authors are. So you can fill out multiple authors. Each person is going to get a person function that's dedicated to them. You can have multiple authors. You can only have one creator. Having your email out there for the world is not necessary. If you were making this maybe for like academia or something like that, you might want to have your email there so that people could contact you if there's issues. The reason why there can only be one creator of the package is because that's the person who is kind of on the hook for maintaining things, or the person referenced for being the maintainer of the package.
Yeah.
So again, if you were using this for academia or something that needed more rigorous validation, you're going to want to put your email in there so that folks can contact you if they find bugs and things like
so
that.
you do if we do plan on submitting this to CRAN, we will have to put our emails in this.
Yeah.
So this is because this is internal. We're not dropping our emails in there, but if we do decide that we want to submit this to CRAN or put this on GitHub, we will add an email address. It'll probably be the TidyX email.
Yeah. Description. I don't think we have to fill that out right now. Is that
We
right?
do, so we don't have to right now, but the
Yeah.
description is like a paragraph explaining what the package does.
Yeah.
However, you cannot start it with the words "this package does." The CRAN has jumped on that a little bit, so we're gonna just say access data from F1 champion ships. I swear I can type.
And you have
From
a capital C,
1950.
capital H too.
You know? Okay.
From 1950 onward or
Until
something like
present.
that. Present. Yeah, there you go.
Um,
And then licensing information is basically the lawyer speak that says, hey, um, we made this package. Don't get mad at us if things aren't returned to you the way that you expect, or you get some sort of weird outcome. The folks at MIT have a license that they created that often gets used. GPL3 is another one. There's if you can look inside of the use this package, and you can find a bunch of the different yeah, and you can
there's a
also find
whole
a
mess.
all of the ones that are available to you. I don't really, maybe I don't really know the reason why you choose one over the other than
It
the MIT
depends.
license
So
one
there's a
defaults.
variety of different reasons that you might pick one license over another. There's some licenses that have, if you use content from a package that has a specific license, sometimes you're required then to use
Uh,
that license as well, or a more restrictive license. So a license not only gives you the opportunity to like say, hey, you can use this and here's why, but you can also put restrictions on this as well. So that again depends on the license you pick. Uh, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to tell people what to use or what the best one is because I have no idea. I tend to use MIT on my packages, but that's just on the ones that I put out publicly on GitHub. But that's just what I pick. Uh,
yeah.
if
So
there's
we'll
a
stick with that.
go with what makes sense, or do
Yeah.
research to figure out what makes the most sense for what you'd like to achieve. So we're just not going to run that in this situation. So cool. So we've got a description file. We kind of covered namespace, but at this point, the package is still really bare bones. It doesn't have any information there. It's still not actually a data package. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make it so that it's going to contain that code that we generated the other week that has the code that does the scraping, as well as the results. So the historical F1 data stored and made public from the package. So the way we're going to go about doing that is there's this use data raw function. And so what this allows you to do is you type in, okay, the data set that I'm going to be generating is F1. What did I call it before?
I think there was no underscore, wasn't there?
No, probably not. It's going to be F1
Oh, there it
championship
was.
data. And so we're now going to add that in to F1 or to run this down here. And so the beautiful thing about use this, it's going to create all the infrastructure for us. So it's going to create the data-raw folder. And within that, it's going to create the F1 championship data.r R script. And there you go. And we can see it's pre-populated and it opened it up for us. It's pre-populated it with this at the end, this use data folder. So we'll get to that in a second. But let's go back into our episode 152 data or script. We're going to pull out the contents that are reusable. And we've already done that and moved that over here. So we've got our library tidyverse, library rvest. It's got the function that we wrote that performs a scraping, and then it's got the quick scrape. I've reduced it from 2000 to 2020 so we can run it live right now, but in the real package it will be 1950 to 2020. So we will paste that up here.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can run this ourselves. So library tidyverse, library rvest, generate the function, and pull the historical F1 data. So we will drop that in there and update the use data to actually be the object that we're trying to save. So this is going to take a minute or two, but this is code that in theory we only have to run once we pulled down the data for us. But of course, if you plan on having multiple versions, you might have it update and rerun this code and then regenerate the data that we want to be using in later versions. Cool. So now we've got this historical F1 data object existing. We can print it out. It's just like we had last week, except now I've limited it to 2000 to 2020. In order to make this data saved and available inside of our R package, we use the use data function, which you'll note is at the very bottom now of this R script. So now anytime this R script gets run, it will call this use data function and perform the act of creating the data folder if it doesn't exist yet, which of course now it does. So now we've got this data folder. Within that, it's going to save this file as an RDA file. So an RDA file is a native to R structure of the serialization of this object. So now
Yeah.
this can be loaded at any point in any other R session.
Yeah. So now that we have data, and if you've ever, if you've ever opened a package that has a data set that comes with it to run vignettes, like the Laman package is one we've used a ton. But there's a whole bunch of the mass package has several data sets. The way that you always call them is package name colon and then whatever data set name it is. So now that we've created this use data folder that stores the data in that RDA file, we can actually just call that data and now we have it. So for example, if we wanted pull a data frame from that list, we could just do list notation here and grab, whichever table we want. And there we have the year 2000. So that checks out with what we scraped, championship results. And then we have, so it's two tables. Yeah. So then you could use another bracket to get, there you go, 2019.
Yeah, so we could structure this in more ways. This is just using the data set that we pulled from last week. Of course,
Yeah.
we could separate out so that event results are another data set and the championship results are another data set. So we could structure this however we want. This was just trying to pull in the data and save it for us very quickly. And we could leave it in this format if we wanted to leave it as a list. And then we could also add additional pieces to say, okay, well, I want to concatenate all the championship results into a single data frame, and we'll call that F1 championship. And then we can do another one and call it F1 event results and store that as well. And then we can now have 3 different RDA files, all available for the user depending on which one they're interested in and how they'd like to interact with the data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is a high level initial look. It is still not documented. There's still many more steps to take this from a package that we can work with locally to a package that then we'd want to be sharing with other data scientists and other members of our team so that they could functionally use this going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, like and subscribe so you can get notified when we release additional episodes showing you how to make a data package. As always, my name's Ellis Hughes, and you can find me on various social media sites at Ellis_Hughes.
And my name's Patrick Ward. Find me on Twitter at OSPPatrick. At tidy_explained is where the screencast lives on Twitter. Tidy.explained@gmail.com is where you can drop us an email if you need to get a hold of us. But the best way, as Ellis said, to get a hold of us really is like and subscribe on the YouTube channel and drop your comments, questions below. And just like this series of episodes, it was formed from a question from a viewer. So maybe a question that you ask can also turn into an episode or a series of episodes as well.
Thank you all so much. Keep on exploring your world.